topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
And welcome to Triversity Talk. I'm Wendy Stuart. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's Wednesday with Wendy. I like that. I just like to say that. I did a rerun last week. So for those of you who didn't catch everything wonderful that happened with Pike County Pride, I'm just going to give you like a little recap. Very successful day. We put on a great show. Sammy Isabella was our headliner. She played for an hour and a half. And then, of course, we had Cult and Ace and speeches and all the cool things that make Pride what it is. It's especially important in a place like Pike County, Pennsylvania, where our LGBTQ is located, Triversity, that we get out there and we do things for our community and, of course, bring people together and remind people that they have to vote, because that's really important too. We also, this year had something that was a little different. This was our second Pike County Pride. We had Caring Community came with this amazing HIV testing facility on wheels. That's the only way I can describe it. And it was really wonderful to have them there as well. We had a lot of our local vendors there. And for those of you who know me, know that I spend my weekends in Milford, Pennsylvania, Pike County. And Triversity is located on our main street there on Harvard Street. You can always see us. We are brick and mortar. You can come in. We have a great lending library, and we have all kinds of support for teens, for kids, for adults. So yeah, check us out. And yeah, it's all good. So speaking of all good, my guest tonight is somebody I've wanted on the show for a long time. And my God, I pulled him kicking and screaming. No, I didn't. Is somebody I admire very much. I really have met so many people that actually devote themselves to LGBTQ causes. And my guest tonight is currently the president of the Imperial Court of New York. Of course, we're having new elections in September. And I just loved his whole sensibility and his commitment to the Imperial Court of New York. We are the, I think, the largest non-for-profit philanthropic organization that raises money for all these other organizations through our incredible events. And we do, my gosh, potluck dinners, just the sky's the limit. And you can go online and see icny.org. We give Night of 1,000 Gowns, which is our stellar event. It's once a year. I believe this year it's in April. And of course, I have it marked on my calendar, but it's a fabulous organization. And Rob has served as president for the last year, as well as being a member since 2003. That's a very long time. I didn't even know of their existence then. And the other thing we are going to talk about tonight, Rob has done a lot in the Asbury Park area. So many of you go to Asbury Park, hang out at Asbury Park, go to the events there. And he's going to tell you everything you always wanted to know about Asbury Park, but we're afraid to ask. So put your hands together for Rob DiSanto.
Hey, Wendy.
How are you?
I'm great. Great.
Did I get everything in that introduction?
Yeah, I think you did. You did a great job. And I look forward to chatting with you tonight and sharing.
Oh yeah, and thank you first of all so much for taking time out and doing that. Everybody is so busy these days, and one of the reason I love doing this show is because there's so many of us that are out there doing so much to bring people together and good in the community, and raising money, having a great time raising money, and it's all really positive stuff. And I think it's important to let people know that that exists out there too. We hear from so many people, oh, the news is so negative and it's this and it's that, and I say to people all the time, you should hang out with me for a little bit, or go look at my Facebook page, because all of us, there's cool stuff we can be doing, and there's ways that we can all be giving back. So you've been a member of the Imperial Court since 2003. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but it seems like I just joined yesterday. I mean, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, how did you first find out? What were things like in 2003? Because for me, it was, a lot of my friends that I didn't think were going to survive were doing well. They had gotten on the cocktails that started like in the 90s. So 2003 was kind of like we were rubbing our eyes and waking up and seeing what was what. Where were things at with the Imperial Court then?
We were still doing a lot of fundraising for AIDS organizations, HIV, AIDS, and there was a lot more community effort to support us. There's a lot still, but it's changed a bit because the focus back then really was supporting organizations to raise money for HIV and AIDS organizations. But we've kind of had to shift over the years. Like currently our focus is on homeless gay youth,
Right.
shelters, and supporting them.
And that would be like Trinity Place
Correct.
and the Sylvia's
Sylvia's
Place.
Place, yep.
Yeah.
And the the support that we're giving them now is important and relevant. But since COVID-19,
Oh,
just 4 years ago,
right.
everything's changed. The world's changed, so has the court. Back in 2003, we had membership of around 200 people. We had big, elaborate balls every year.
I remember hearing about the balls.
They were spectacular.
Right.
It's undescribable. And now we've had to tone it down just a little bit, but we still bring everything we've got to make a great event. And we still are invested in supporting our community, whether it's HIV and AIDS organizations or homeless youth centers. We run the gamut now.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you use the word commitment. I mean, I think what have I been? I joined right before the pandemic. What a crazy time to join anything. Like everything was shut down. However, you know what? It was really great because I was still able to meet people. And I was able to get my feet wet during that time and see what you all were about. And people used to tell me about like what Night of 1,000 Gowns was like, and at the Marriott Marquis, and big stars performing there and everything. But I think the lesson that we all need to learn here is things change and shit happens. It does. And like so many organizations, I'm sure we lost people during the pandemic. Look, for me, my whole career blew up. I know people whose careers where they still stayed the same. I was part of that group of people that, I woke up 2 years later with nothing the same. And even now, it left a mark, right, about how I do things and how I feel about things, because I could never encompass everything going away. And that's what happened during the pandemic. All of a sudden, we had this worldwide crisis. Not to say that AIDS was a worldwide crisis, but because it was perceived as hitting certain groups,
Right.
the world didn't shut down. with the pandemic, it was the shutdown of the world. And Rob, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I really do.
Even the transmission of, whether AIDS compared to COVID was completely different.
Right. Exactly.
So for me, it was my experience through that time. My partner and I, we make costume jewelry, and at that time, it wasn't in high command. It wasn't what was necessary for people, but we did have some customers that kept us afloat through the time, which was very generous of them.
That's
But
great.
for me personally, in 2019, I was diagnosed with cancer. You know this.
What? I did not know this.
Yeah, and then I was going through chemo, and when COVID came around,
Ugh.
so that was March of 2020, and I was at my weakest point because of the chemo, and that's when I caught COVID. And I actually was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I couldn't breathe. It was the worst thing. And I wasn't so afraid of the cancer. I was afraid of COVID because not being able to breathe was just awful.
Right. Well, being in the hospital, first of all, people were dying like crazy, and you had no immune system left.
Exactly.
Do you know I didn't know any of this about you? I'm like, oh, he's such a great guy. He's so dedicated. Oh, you're always so diplomatic to work with. And when I was reading your bio, well, you studied diplomacy at King College, so you know how to be diplomatic, right? And politically correct. But I didn't know any of this about you. It had to be a very scary time for you.
It was really scary. The hospital at the time, people couldn't come and visit you. It was very isolating. But what was really bizarre at that time is when I was released from the hospital, the world had shut down while I was in the hospital. Right. So when I went in, the world was one way. When I came out, it was completely different. It was like a zombie apocalypse, No,
and, listen, I
just
agree.
Didn't get it.
Right. Huh? I
didn't understand the new world yet. It took me a while because it happened while I was isolated. But I came back, and it's probably why you're saying, "Hey, Rob, good, your hair's finally growing." Because when we first met, I didn't have any hair. It was very short. But it was a healing time for me.
I'm so observant of everything. No, I did not realize that. I just noticed your facial hair has gotten big. I'm like, oh, he decided to, grow a beard like so many people do. I noticed none of what you were saying. And God bless you. I'm glad you're here. And, personally, what a thing to have gone through at that time. I mean, remember what the hospitals were like. And, we have swept so much of that under the rug, right?
It's forgotten almost. It's like, it's a long forgotten memory.
But how can that be when people say goodbye to people on iPads? That's a thought I hold on to. I can't believe that the world changed in such a way that's what happened, that you couldn't even get in to see your loved one. But the Imperial Court, of course, had to go through that, as did all of the non-for-profits that we raised money for. I mean, I think it's a credit to all of these organizations that they're still standing at all, really.
Yes, many had to close, unfortunately.
Right.
But now makes our job even more poignant because
I agree.
There are organizations that still need funding, and that's what the Imperial Court does. We raise funds for other organizations that need special funding because they're not getting it from the government or from other areas. Mm-hmm. And, that's really important. I take very serious what we do, and I take a lot of pride in the work that our membership does.
As you should. And the thing, and I want to share this here, that all these events we do, and I haven't had a chance to be able to be one of the ones to step up, but these events are all produced by our volunteers, and the lengths that they go to. I mean, we just, we did Christmas in July, the amount of wrapped gifts that were on that stage. And then I heard there were a gazillion more besides that. They couldn't even fit them all.
Yeah.
I mean, people would have to see it to believe it, honestly. And you walk into the room and it's completely decorated for whatever the theme is. And this is done all by volunteers. The performers are all volunteering to perform. For me, it makes me feel good. You know, it's the antithesis of the news. It's the antithesis of all the things that we hear that are going on out there that you can't do anything about. But in the Imperial Court, it makes you feel like, for me, even to get up there and lip sync a song and people throw the dollar bills in the pail and I sell raffle tickets, you leave and you feel so good because that's something you do have control over, all of us.
Yeah. Yep. And my thought just totally went out of my head.
Well, that's okay because I've got a million things. You should know that. If that thought went away, I'll have another thought for you. And here's one for you. How did you become such a caring, committed person?
It's interesting because way back when in Asbury Park, I managed the nightclub Paradise, which is New Jersey's largest gay bar complex. And people would come to me with crazy ideas like, we're thinking we'd like to do this. I mean, first of all, we were home for the leather community and the bear community. So they were always around and very supportive. But also our drag performers, they all had special needs. And before then, I was probably a little, arm's distance away from the drag community. But when I managed the Paradise, I realized at that point that, we're all just human beings and we're all just trying to get to that next day and be as happy as we can. So I embraced that community. And, at that point, one of our drag queens from the club wanted to get a nose job and said, "Can we do a benefit for this?" And I said, "Let's do it." Another person wanted, a gastric bypass. And can we do a fundraiser? Yeah, let's do it.
Sure,
the leather community would come, "Hey, let's do a chili cook-off." And I'd be like, "Yeah, great, let's do it." Because it's good for business, it's good for the community, and it brings people together.
Right.
And that's really how I started with charity work. I was always open. I don't think I ever said no because it's important for our community to do this. And I recognized at that point, there's power in this as well, that we can do something positive and we can help our community. And in Asbury Park, I grew up in this area. And so at 17, I came out to my senior class at high school. You tell a few people I'm gay, and this was 1979, never had a problem.
Right.
I was accepted. My family accepted me. I've got the best family, which was really important.
You just brought up something though. Like I came from the Bronx. My friends and we're in the same age group, right? My friends who quote unquote came out at that, it was nothing. It was no one came out of anything. They were just like, I'm gay. There was no big proclamation.
It really wasn't.
Or whatever. And what is such an enigma to me now, because we started out talking about homeless LGBTQ youth, is from the late 70s to now, we should have made strides, but no, we've got more kids than ever that have been ostracized and thrown out of their.
Well, everybody has their unique situation, and I don't take for granted mine that I was very fortunate.
You were that you had that support.
Yeah, I mean, I came from a broken family, but my brothers, my sister, they all embraced me and embraced anybody that I was with. They were family immediately.
Wow.
So I came out to the bars in Asbury Park, and back in 1978, 79, I might have been a little underage, but that was the times. Nobody checked IDs.
Right.
There were so many gay bars in Asbury Park. There was 13 gay bars, 3 huge dance clubs, and we had a bathhouse, all in Asbury Park. Asbury Park always had a very large gay community that was here. And of course, we'd get people from Philadelphia and from New York, and a lot from other places, Pennsylvania. And it was a destination because there was so much to do.
When did they start having such a big gay? I only came on, aboard knowing about anything about Asbury Park, like the late 90s. I had no idea till that point. I always thought of it as like Bruce Springsteen country,
Sure.
Southside Johnny and the Asbury Dukes. So when did the gay community like really come about in Asbury Park?
Well, it's always been here, as I said, and there was always a big presence here, probably back since the 20s, 1920s.
Wow.
It's always been here. And we have a huge music scene. That's why, people relate Asbury Park to Bruce Springsteen or John Bon Jovi or,
Right.
other greats. And it's still thriving today. But a friend of mine back at around 2000, now I moved it's back to Asbury Park in 1996. He wrote an article. He was a freelance writer. His name was Michael Liberatore. And he wrote an article about Asbury Park because he had visited here. And it actually got published in the New York Times. And that actually alerted, like, hey, this is an up and coming place. And all of a sudden, the gays started coming down to Asbury Park. And the community that was here, we were very, very tight knit at that time.
Right.
Because we were trying to survive in a place that wasn't really that nice at that point.
Right.
So people started coming down, and there was a small group of us, 5 of us, who decided we should capitalize on this. And we started a nonprofit organization, a grassroots organization, for the purpose of raising awareness about Asbury Park for tourism, home ownership, and entrepreneurship. And we called ourselves the Asbury Park Marketing Fund. So this is back in, I think it was 2002, 2003. And there was 5 of us that got together, and 2 of them, my neighbors, Peter Abertelli and Carmen Cacciatore, they were in the music industry as promoters. And we had another one, Dane Hall, who worked for VH1, and another person who was in marketing. And I was managing Paradise at that time. Very exciting time. So we're like, let's do this. And at that time, Peter and Carmen were working with Cyndi Lauper. So we're like, let's get Cyndi Lauper down here. We'll do a one-night event. We'll sell tickets. It was at Paradise. And we raised a great sizable amount of money, which we invested back into Asbury Park to, as I said, for homeownership, entrepreneurship. And it was such a success. We're like, we've got to expand on this. Now, also at that time, we live at the beach. Weekends would come any day of the week. You go to the Asbury Park beach at that time, nobody came here. Our beaches, north and south, packed to the gills. Asbury Park, nobody. Because it had such a bad reputation at that time. And people felt that Asbury Park was unsafe. Now, there was a movie that was filmed at the time. I think it was called City by the Sea with Robert De Niro and James Franco.
Yeah.
And it was filmed in Asbury Park, but it was supposed to be a New York beach. And it just looks like a wreck. So the following year, with the Asbury Park Marketing Fund, we added a few more people, and we expanded it to not a one-night event, but a weekend event.
Smart.
And we highlighted the beach. We had an umbrella decorating contest. We had a comedian come in and perform at the Paramount Theater. We got all the realtors together, and we had open houses all weekend. And that it just exploded after that. So every year it just got bigger.
It's everything you're talking about is really brilliant. And I know the amount of hard work, but I think you were with so many like-minded people.
Yes.
When you're with like-minded with the same vision, to me, you're one of these guys. Oh, why not? Of course. That's the kind of person I am. I'm not big on everyone voting on a thing and hitting the thing back and forth and torturing the thing to death. I'm like, hey, you know what? I've got a barn. You've got costumes. Oh, we can easily put on a show. This will be.
Let's do it, right?
Right. Well, let's do it. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Wow.
Yeah. Also at that time, I was on the Asbury Park Board of Education. I got elected in 2003, and in 2004, I became president of the Asbury Park Board of Education. It was a tough time because I was in my mid-40s at the time, and it's the first time in my life I ever was discriminated against because I was openly gay. I managed a gay bar, and there was quite a lot of blowback because now I'm the president of the Board of Education.
So you have to fill us in. How did that end up happening?
There was a small group of people that just were appalled, first of all, that I'm a white gay guy in a minority dominant area, and I guess they were offended, and
but did you have to run for a position?
I was elected, yes.
Okay, so that's my point. You were elected. People wanted you there. So, tough noogies to everybody else, really.
Well, at that point in 2003, because of Road Trip or the Asbury Park Marketing Fund, a lot of people were moving in. I'm the manager of a bar. I knew a lot of people. I got elected.
Of course.
But it was interesting because, we had our Mr. and Miss Leather, New Jersey contests at Paradise. So I learned something very interesting, and I want to be very clear about this, is that when we look at our Facebook pages and what we post, because we're very liberal, most of us,
right,
that we post a lot of pictures and a lot of things that if you're viewed from somebody else's eyes, they may not be appropriate. And I learned that lesson at that time because there was a picture of me with Mr. and Miss Leather, New Jersey. It's a great picture. I'm in the middle between the winners.
Right. Except you were heading up this Board of Education.
And I'm in a harness and leather pants and with other people in leather.
Me, who's all over Facebook, could have told you bad choice.
Yeah, well, we looked at that point. I wasn't looking through a diverse lens. I was looking through my eyes.
Right.
And after this happened, I really realized that, this is when you post things on Facebook and whatnot, yes, we all want to be free. We want to express ourselves and everything, but who's our audience?
Right.
And at that point, maybe this picture was not appropriate. And I got a lot of blowback from it, and it was brutal. I mean, it got to a point, the group out in, I think it's New Mexico or Arizona, the law group, is it the Defense? Oh, I wish I knew what it was.
Okay, it's not the Southern Poverty one.
No, this is the one that Comey, Supreme Court judge, is part of.
It'll come to you in the middle of the night.
Anyway, they are a law group that target gay elected officials across the nation. Well, they were called in for me. This is a small town. This is a Board of Education. Are you kidding me?
Right.
But this went on for 2.5 years, and it hit national news. The harassment I was getting, and the bigotry that was, and it. My dad lived in Kansas at that point, and he called me up. He's like, "I'm reading about you in our local newspaper," and it's just weird. It hit every single major news channel at the time. It was wild. Anyway.
How did you get through? You had obviously been objectified because of this picture. How did you get through that time when you were being attacked? I mean,
sure. When my let's go back to my education.
Right.
Political science, concentrating on diplomacy and conflict resolution. Right. So at our board meetings, the haters would come up and they had an opportunity to talk at the microphone. Well, they made me sound like I was the most horrible person that ever worked in the world. So I would just sit there with a face and say, "Thank you for your comments. Next. Thank you for your comments. Next." And I wouldn't feed them anything.
Never let them see you sweat.
And it really came to a head 2.5 years later when my board. Well, let me also say the gay community here is awesome because Board of Education, 9 members, 3 people are elected for a 3-year term. So I was elected 1 year. Once this all started happening, 3 gay candidates ran for the Board of Education and got elected.
Wow.
So now there's 4 out of 9. The following year, 3 more did. even a lesbian. And
You were actually groundbreaking with all of
it
this.
really was groundbreaking. It was,
Wow.
and so it all the board was now 7 members gay, 2 straight, and it totally turned around.
Yeah, because you
And it
do.
came to a head one day, and I have to say, thanks to my gay community and the support of Asbury Park, is that the haters came up and the ringleader was up at the microphone, and I'm sitting there looking at him. He's looking at me, and my board members, one by one, stood up and turned their backs on him. And then my administration on the other side stood up and turned their backs on him quietly. And then everybody, all the support in the audience did the same thing, got up, turned their backs to him. They knew they were done. And it was just, to me, a movie perfect moment. And the gratitude I had from that was just, I still am swelling from it because it was just overwhelming. And it was so powerful.
It's very powerful. And what an incredible impact by one picture in the newspaper ended up really turning everything around.
Yeah. So those are times, and the gay community has continued to thrive here. We had a lot of houses that were absolutely beautiful, big, but they were bastardized into a lot of apartments. So we had a large density here,
Right.
and the gay community came in. They saw these beautiful houses, and they converted them back to single family houses, and really turned the town around. And if you go to a Springsteen concert or anything, he's always saying it's the gay community that turned Asbury Park around.
He's totally cool. And I love that, he gives kudos where it needs to be. That's great. That's absolutely great. So my God, you need to write a book, Rob.
I've been told that before. I have a lot of history here, but time, energy, I don't know. You're absolutely right, though.
Time, energy, and all of the above. So, we're all doing now the countdown to November, right? It's really dicey. Like when you watch the news, it seems like every day there's like a different thing, and you don't know what to listen to anymore. You don't know what's real. Does it ever unnerve you? You've really been through it. I never realized that you had a whole town turn against you because of a picture, and you not only made it through, you came through on the other side with flying colors and all kinds of people supporting you. What do you feel that's going to happen going forward? There's all of these really horrible anti-LGBTQ bills that are being proposed. And, even you and I are we're sitting here talking, and there's sneaky people out there with such hate doing such incredible things. Where do you think we're going to be going?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful now. I'll be honest with you. A month ago, I wasn't so hopeful anymore. I think we were all felt the same way. And it's a scary, scary idea to have Trump back into office again.
Right.
It's just I can't imagine it and how much it would affect each and one of our lives. It's scary, but I'm hopeful now. I'm very, very hopeful. I think Harris's team is very strong.
I agree with you. I think they are a strong team. I like that she's got a mouth.
Yeah.
We needed that, I personally have felt like even in the last election, you can't like tiptoe through the tulips when the person that you're running up against will say the most horrific things and thinks nothing of it. And his constituents will not even question what he's saying. We're in the Northeast. It's a little different here than in other places.
We do live in a bubble. Yep.
But I don't have to tell you, Pennsylvania, people connected with Triversity and our Democratic groups, of which we have a couple, are really, they are really boots on the ground. I mean, they're mobilizing. And when I came out to PA right after 9/11, we didn't have anything like that. Okay. The need for mobilization now, it's evident why we need it, but we've got it. And Pennsylvania, is, I don't have to tell you, that's a very pivotal state.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of the Rust Belt, right?
Right. And in terms of voting, and it was amazing during the last person's administration. I've been in this town since 2000 and since 9/11, and I watch what crawled out from underneath rocks. It's really kind of pretty scary. And you still hear, and I still hear the stuff. I absolutely do. However, the other side is swelled and is, mobilizing and knows what they need to do. I think you'll agree with me. You can't pussyfoot around with this. You've got to, can't have that kumbaya moment. Where I remember Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, we go high. I had a friend, I remember him saying, when they go low, we need to go lower.
It's true.
And
yeah, you're right. You can't pussyfoot around anymore. This is serious, and we can't be complacent.
Right.
And polite. We can't be polite.
Right. And there's just way too much at stake. It's interesting. I have a client in the city, and that doesn't fit the profile of people that would be supporting him getting in. And this person is like, I don't understand why everybody hates him so much. What has he done that's so terrible? And the woman who works with him also said, and neither of them were born here, what has he done that's so terrible? The fact that people are not informed. Because if they were informed, they would know. If you read, and I'm not talking about, fake news or only using one news source, man, you can Google, you can go all over. If you read this stuff, this is not made up, folks. And I don't understand how, people that live and work in New York City, any of them could agree with that. I get like the greedy people, that they want to protect their assets no matter what. And they don't give a hoot about anyone else. I get that, that's not my MO, but I get that. But I don't understand like normal people where they could, you put the wrong person in office, you're going to watch your healthcare be impacted, your Social Security. I don't understand why they can't envision that. I guess
just your basic rights being taken away from you. I mean, that's on the table as well. There are so many anti-LGBTQ plus bills being presented to the Senate and Congress these days. Right. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Why are you even bothering? There's a million other things you could put bills.
Exactly.
Why are you targeting? And I was going to use a group. I hate using that word, a group. These are just other people. We are all people on this earth together. Why would you target? I just, for the life of me, can't wrap my head around it.
I can't either. But let me tell you this. I have so much faith in people that I think so many eyes are open that this election's not going to be as bad as we thought it might be a month ago. I think people are coming around.
Right.
And I think there's more people like you and I out there that are level thinking and understand the consequences. I mean, there's just so much on the table that could hurt more people if Trump gets elected.
Well, yeah, people that could hurt, a lot of the people that could hurt are middle class and working class people. Why would you vote, against your own interests? For the life of me, I would never get that. But like you, I watched everything turn around. It's been a little over a month now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My only question, and I have had this question, I write funny political parodies. You've heard some of the things I write. I'm working on one about Kamala, but I do have a question about why she was kept in a trunk for 4 years. And somebody said to me, I've had people say to me, isn't it amazing how she learned to take over and speak overnight? I'm like, no, she didn't. She is that. Why did they not let her speak? It's
a good question. I don't have an answer for you. I don't even have a thought on that.
And it's a little disconcerting that we have this amazing person there right along, and yet kept in the shadows. People have said, oh, because, they wanted the attention to go to him or whatever. I just don't believe that, Rob. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but
Well,
along the way.
the thing is that we've got to stay positive and look
Yeah.
forward. And she is out of the box now, and I think she's ready to take on the world. So
Absolutely. And we're all ready to support her.
yeah,
Absolutely. So you travel. I know you
I do.
love scuba diving. You go to very exotic, Indonesia, right?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, it's one of my life's pleasures, and Tim, my partner, and I, we live together, we work together. We need to get away from each other every once in a while. And my passion is scuba diving. His is our cabin up in Maine.
Right.
So yeah, I've been to um, the Galapagos, and while I was there, I spent an extra week in Quito, Ecuador. I've been to the Red Sea. I spent a week in Egypt. I've been to the Philippines. I've been to Indonesia last year. And this is in the southeast, so it was actually closer to Australia than it was like to Jakarta.
Okay.
And from there, I spent a week in Borneo because I've always wanted to go to Borneo, not even knowing what's in Borneo, but it was
Me too. I
fascinating.
know what's in it. I read these are the places I read about Borneo, and I have people that are working on orangutan projects there,
Yeah.
of course. So that for me, that's what I would do if I went there.
It was amazing. I've been up and down the Caribbean. I've traveled at the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. I love them all. But yeah, that's my pleasure. I mean, and
Have you ever had any pushback as a gay man traveling to places like Indonesia or Borneo?
no, none. And I don't go out there waving my flag either. You have to be
All right,
respectful of where you're traveling. You want to be safe.
of course.
I usually travel by myself, or I'll go with a group of gay men and women, and so it's it's just I can't wait. I have a trip next week. I'll be going to an island, and I'm probably going to screw up the name. It's Saint Eustatios,
Oh, I
which is
got it
near
there, Saint Eustatia.
Estacia. Is that it? And
Going
yeah,
diving.
so I'm going to be there next month, and this is with a
Wow.
group, another charity group. It's called Diving for Life, and this started with a man 20 years ago, maybe longer, who had AIDS, and he started this charity. So we raise hundreds of thousands of dollars that go back to every dive center's local community, and it's once a year. So I haven't been in 10 years, so I'm excited to go back next month.
I've actually been there. The crossover from St. Martin to there, the water, it's rough. It's well, but you're a scuba diver. You don't, you probably don't even get seasick. Look at
I
you.
don't. I don't get seasick, but I'm taking the boat, yeah, from St. Martin to
Yeah.
so I'm excited.
Very, very,
That's
very
my happy place, under the water,
right under the water, and you're probably very much in tune with the ocean and what's under there and how precious all of it is and
Got
what's
to
going
catch it before it disappears. With the changing climate, it affects the water, affects what's going on under the water,
right.
because as the waters get warmer, or the salinity gets weakened because there's so much fresh water going in there, it's changing everything. And it's so
Absolutely.
sad to go diving, and I see this a lot in the Caribbean, where the reefs are just all bleached out.
They're bleached.
Yeah, because that's what happens when the water gets the organisms in there retreat, and
Right.
it kills the reefs. And when the reefs die, well, the fish disappear, and it just goes on and on and
The
on.
catch
So
22 situation, but I'm sure so because I'm a member of the Explorers Club, I know tons of divers, even though I'm not one myself. And I know a lot of people working on those programs to bring back the reefs,
yep,
like in places like Belize. And David Guggenheim was working in Cuba to have, there's so many people I know that are getting grants and everything else to bring the reefs back, and it's working. It's absolutely working, but it's painstaking. And once again, we're talking about having to raise like a lot of money, and the the big challenge, and you know this as a diver, is the water temperatures going up. And we know this not only from where you're diving, but in last year, I went to see the Mendenhall Glacier in Alaska because I give tours at the Explorers Club, and I love talking about where I've been, what I've seen, and what I know that people tell me about. I'm like, damn it, I'm going to Alaska because a piece of that glacier with the houses built so close to it went right into the river.
Yeah.
And I got, I saw the pictures. I got up there and I had booked a private guy to take me out there. He was really good looking too. And they called me the night before and they said, listen, we can take you anywhere. Maybe you don't want to go there. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I want to go there? I want to see firsthand the retreating of these glaciers, because this is a reality I talk about. And people I know or there have been scientists that are trying to come up with ways to stop this, the melting and the retreating. I really wanted to see it, and I did, and it was extremely sad. Ironically enough, I took a car back from where I was back to Anchorage, and the driver I had asked me what I did, and I said, I went to see that glacier, the Mendenhall Glacier, because of climate change. And he said, climate change? He said, please. He said, I've lived in Alaska my whole life. There's no such thing as climate change, ma'am. And so when I reach someone like that, I'm like, no. He said, no, not at all. He says, we just go through cycles where things melt. But, then the glaciers just come back again. And, he's just, these people are all crazy coming up here to study climate change when there really isn't any. Now that's Alaska, and this person votes. So that's all I'll say.
Well, let's bring this back to the Imperial Court. I was in Alaska in 2008 while I was reigning the first time as emperor of the Imperial Court of New York, and there's actually an Imperial Court of Alaska in Anchorage, and my dear friend.
They're Zadie, amazing. Our Alaska people are amazing. They're
fun, right?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. But that's another part of my traveling. Like my partner and I, we make jewelry. Tim and I, we make jewelry, costume jewelry. We make the crowns, we make the tiaras, we make the necklaces, everything. We're known as one of the court jewelers.
You are.
So we travel to a lot of the other courts, and before COVID, there was 70. I think we have about 60 courts now, which is a lot. And we're spread across North America, including Canada and Mexico. So, for instance, Texas has 7 courts. California, I think, has 8 or 9 courts. Washington State has 7 courts. It's hard to believe. Lexington, Kentucky. We're everywhere. And I love to travel. So I love to go with my wares, our jewelry, and go to support these coronations across the world. And it's a great networking thing. I've known so many people, and they're all great people. We're all like-minded for our communities.
Right. And it's all about doing for the community. And I totally agree with you. I hope in the future, if I get more time, that I can go to some of those coronations myself. I love that you supply jewelry for the Imperial Court and that it goes all over the country. Okay. People love what you and your partner do. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. And you know what? While we're talking, not just for the court, for anybody that wants gorgeous jewelry, you do it. It's absolutely beautiful. Well, oh my gosh, we have 1 minute left, Rob. I don't know where the time. Wow.
You're easy to talk to, Wendy.
I know you can tell that to every whacked out person in New York that is talking to themselves. And then if there's someone walking down the street that's me, they'll come up to me in a heartbeat. No one else. It's that thing. Rob, what do you hope for yourself in the next year? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. If I was right where I am right now, I'm good. I'm so happy these days.
I love it.
I'm older now. I'm 62, and there comes wisdom with that, a calmness, and I'm so happy where I am in life. So
I love it.
There's nothing I change right now.
Well,
I love what I do.
Right.
I love traveling, and it's all come together, and I love being a part of the Imperial Court and the community. So,
and as we say, you're living your best life. And I always like to take a parting shot with my camera while we're on the computer. So cheese.
All right, cheese.
Great. Rob, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you've done for the Imperial Court, that you do for the Imperial Court, and going forward. And I'm excited to be a member of it. I mean, people like you. You absolutely inspire me. And I know our listeners tonight, you've inspired them as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone.